MSNBC's Morning Joe is back on air this morning after the Trump-critical program was pulled off the network yesterday, 2 days after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at his Pennsylvania rally. Now, here's what the hosts had to say this morning about how they were treated by the network.
We were told in no uncertain terms on Sunday evening that there was going to be one news feed across all NBC News channels yesterday. The Today Show would be Lester Holt, other people that you worked with on Sunday, and that was going to be one news feed across all NBC News channels, that we were going to stay as a network in breaking news mode throughout all day yesterday. That did not happen. We don't know why that didn't happen. Our team was not given a good answer as to why that didn't happen, but it didn't happen. We were also told it was going to happen throughout the day. And I guess after there was such a strong blowback about yesterday morning, I guess they changed their plans. And so those plans changed as well. So it didn't. We've talked about it off the air. We'll talk about it on the air because we talk about everything on the air. We were very surprised. We were very disappointed. And if we had known that there wasn't going to be the one news feed from NBC News across all NBC News channels, Willie, we obviously would have been in yesterday morning.
We are here today going through a lot, catching up a little bit, but we want to be here for our audience, and we know you trust us, and we have ultimate respect for you guys. So we are here today. I wish we'd been here yesterday.
Yeah, we all wish we would have been here yesterday. We still would like to figure out exactly why there wasn't that one news feed.
A CNN report from yesterday suggested the decision to pull the program was to avoid any comments that could be seen as inappropriate following the assassination attempt. But NBC News denied this claim, telling the Washington Post that the decision was part of a broader strategy with a singular news feed.
And to be clear, I don't know if it came up in that clip. I might have missed it if it did. But they said, Joe and Mika said, if next time we're told there's going to be a news feed replacing us, they can get somebody else to host the show. So they threatened based on this. They were led to believe the whole network was not doing its regular programming. They were doing live feed coverage of the RNC. When they realized it was just them, they got really upset, and they said, if you ever do that again, we're both going to quit. So I thought that was interesting. And then NBC itself is saying the reason they took them off the air was not because they were afraid that their commentary was going to be provocative, anti-Trump stuff. Now, that excuse doesn't make any sense because I think Joe and Mika know that is why it was, because it didn't change. The rest of the program for the day wasn't interrupted by anything else. I think they know it was that reason. And they're obviously correct to be unhappy about their bosses saying, we don't want your commentary today. It shows that the confusion at the network at MSNBC that they have hosts who have these incredibly anti-Trump views. They have an audience, a shrinking audience every year, but an audience of people who expect crusading anti-Trump content. Yeah. But the network thinks that this was not the moment for crusading anti-Trump content. I don't know. What say you?
That could have been their money-making day. That's the audience that they coveted. And so if that's your audience that you're relying on to make a bunch of money and you're the network, you can't one day decide, you know what, we're not going to do that. Specifically today, you guys are off the air. If that's the audience you depend on, a decision like this is bad business.
Yeah.
If you created a show where the hosts were staunchly anti-Trump, bleeding heart liberals, and that's your audience, this would have been the day where they would have watched every clip from you guys. And so it's very clear that there's a level of power that mainstream media has over the narrative. And a lot of people like news anchors because they trust certain people. They like getting their news from certain reporters. They've read a lot of their work. They understand their perspective and their values. And I think there's a tension at the networks who have traditionally really enjoyed having a lot of control over what their hosts are saying through a teleprompter, not letting them talk like we do on this show. And in moments like that, moments where they feel like the nation's in crisis, they really pull on those strings.
Well, you can also never assume that people in charge of networks know what they're doing from a business standpoint, because they have ideological agendas too, in addition to the bottom line. It's surprising. I know everybody, probably a lot of our viewers think that the bottom line at the end of the day, so the advertisers influence the content. I understand that view. I think that view was probably more that can happen, and I think probably in
cable news.
Right, in older times, I think that probably was a bigger impact. Now, again, if you're seeking profits, if you're money making, you're very beholden to the audience, frankly, because you want, and that's true of us as much as anyone else. We got to produce content that our viewers like to watch and to interact with. So we're very cognizant of not just what perspectives they like. I mean, that's not a problem on our show because our show features a variety of perspectives. It's a debate show. But we know what topics they like, and we're more liable to cover them. But for people in charge at places like CNN and MSNBC and mainstream media organizations, it often, I think, appeals to the people in charge to have a very neutral or just the facts, just reporting kind of programming, because that's comforting and easier. That's not going to get them in trouble. Like, that's what the people in charge want. But it turns out that people watching and listening tend to be people with strongly held political views, and they want opinion, and they want some provocation, and they want it to be fiery and feisty and informed and well reported. It's not anything against good reporting, but they want it to have a perspective. And so that mismatch, I think, has led a lot of the media into discord between not wanting it to be perspective based, but knowing that perspective based is actually what viewers want.
I remember the first major news day I had. It was when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I was on the first show of the day on TYT, the 9 a.m. show. The producer texted me, Roe was just overturned. Or it was when the leak came out. So not yet, but we're pretty sure based on what we had. And I remember thinking, many people watch the news to help process big events, big things like an assassination attempt against a former president. And if they're used to getting their news from certain people, there's a comfort in, I'm getting the information from this person I always hear it from, they're helping me process it. And I remember feeling this is a big responsibility to be the person that helps people process historical events. And so I'm sure the hosts of Morning Joe felt this obligation to their viewers that they have that relationship, that they wanted to watch Morning Joe on Monday morning. And it sounds like I'm making this a little bit more emotional than it should be, but I bet the viewers had a bad taste in their mouth about the network when their reliable hosts were denied the ability to give the information to their viewers, who are very loyal customers, frankly, of the network.
Yeah. Very much so. All right, well, we'll be paying attention to see if Joe Scarborough and Mika are on the air tomorrow. More Rising right after this.